Yo, check this out. Today we're watching every horrifying place in the ocean. Look at the thumbnail, bro. Brine pools, volcanoes, ship graveyards. We're about to see some of the scariest places in the ocean that you never want to go. Let's go. All right, here we go.
The Devil's Sea sits east of the Philippines and south of Japan, also called the Dragon's Triangle. It covers roughly 1 million square kilometers of the Pacific.
Okay, so I know about like the Bermuda Triangle where like ships disappeared stuff. Is this going to be like that? Because it's like a triangle? I don't know.
Aircraft
go
same silent.
Thing.
The Japanese government declared it a danger zone in the 1950s. After losing vessels they couldn't account for, they sent a research ship to investigate. It disappeared too. All 31 crew members gone. The area sits over one of the most geologically active zones on Earth. Multiple tectonic plates meet beneath it. Underwater volcanoes erupt constantly on the seafloor. The eruptions release massive amounts of methane, bubbles that rise and reach the surface in sudden bursts. When enough methane reaches the surface at once, the water density drops.
So basically there's this triangle where all the tectonic plates and stuff meet, and there's a bunch of volcanoes and they're always blowing up and stuff, so that whenever ships go over it, it's like they sink or something because all the volcanoes? I don't know. Let's find out.
Ships lose buoyancy instantly. No warning. No time to send a signal. Just water where there wasn't water before.
The steam
the
from
seafloor beneath the Devil's Sea is unmapped. It drops into trenches that have never been explored. Researchers who have managed to send equipment into the deep zones retrieve data that doesn't make sense. Magnetic readings that fluctuate wildly. Compass equipment that spins without settling. Strong enough to interfere with navigation even from depth. In 2015, sonar imaging of the region picked up formations on the seafloor. Symmetrical structures. Long, flat shapes arranged at angles that don't occur naturally. They sit at 2,000 feet below the surface in one of the least stable geological zones on Earth. No submersible has reached them. Every attempt to investigate has been cut short by equipment failure or weather. The structures remain in the sonar data, precisely where the disappearances are most concentrated.
Buildings down there.
No official explanation has been given for what they are. Underwater volcanoes.
Okay, underwater volcanoes.
Most of Earth's volcanic activity happens underwater. 75% of all lava output comes from the ocean floor. There are an estimated 1 million.
Damn! Look at this picture, bro. There's like 1 million volcanoes just in this area. I ain't never going to India, Madagascar, Zimbabwe, none of those places. All right.
Submarine volcanoes. Fewer than 5,000 have been identified. The rest are active and unmapped, erupting constantly into water that absorbs the evidence before it reaches the surface. The eruptions are different underwater. Pressure keeps gases compressed. Lava hits cold water and freezes instantly into glass. Pillow lava. Rounded black shapes stacked like sandbags across the seafloor. Miles of it. Some formations are thousands of feet thick, built up over millions of years of continuous eruption. The newest seafloor on Earth is being made right now. Somewhere in the Pacific no one is watching. The heat from submarine volcanoes sustains ecosystems that have no business existing. Superheated water venting at 400 degrees Celsius, above boiling point but kept liquid by pressure. Around these vents, life clusters in densities that rival tropical reefs. Shrimp with heat sensors on their backs instead of eyes. Tube worms 10 feet tall growing in fields across the volcanic rock. None of it should work. All of it does. In 2009, an eruption was caught on camera for the first time. West Mata volcano in the Pacific. Lava bursting through the seafloor in explosions of light. The footage shows something moving through the eruption zone. Large shapes visible between the lava flows. Swimming through active volcanic eruption, through superheated acidic water, through conditions that should be instantly lethal.
I want to see the video,
weren't good enough to identify them. A follow-up expedition found no trace. The volcano had rearranged the seafloor entirely. Whatever was there was gone or buried. The largest underwater volcano on Earth is Tamu Massif in the Pacific, the size of New Mexico.
That volcano is the size of New Mexico. Oh my god, bruh.
In 2023, new thermal imaging showed heat signatures from its summit. The seafloor above it is rising slightly, centimeters per year. Not enough to cause alarm, enough to indicate pressure building from below. Tamu Massif last erupted 145 million years ago. The next time it goes, the displacement would generate tsunamis across the entire Pacific basin. Whale. Graveyards. Whales die at sea and sink. A single whale carcass hitting the ocean floor.
Whales are so big that whenever they die, they just sit there. Like, do they all go to like the same place? Do they got like graveyards and stuff? That's cool.
Triggers a sequence that plays out over decades. The first wave arrives within hours. Sharks and hagfish strip the flesh. Within months, the bones are clean. But that's only the beginning. The bones are saturated with lipids. Specialized bacteria colonize the skeleton and start breaking down those oils. The process produces hydrogen sulfide, the same chemosynthetic organisms that live at hydrothermal vents move in to exploit it. Mussels, tube worms, Snails, a vent ecosystem built from a body. It can sustain itself for up to a century.
Oh my god, after a whale dies, it creates a whole ecosystem of all these different things because everything, it has so much like food on it that everything can just eat it and stuff. So all the animals and bacteria and stuff are fighting for all this meat and stuff, dude. That's dope.
Researchers estimate thousands of whale
100
skeletons
years
are
is
active
how long
on the
it can live.
seafloor right now, each one hosting a unique ecosystem. Species that only exist on that skeleton.
Huh?
When the lipids are finally exhausted, the whole community collapses, goes extinct. Entire biological worlds rising and disappearing
Yo.
with no one watching. In 2019, a submersible
That's kinda
surveying the
creepy,
seafloor
bro.
off California came across a whale fall mid-succession. The bones were still
No
releasing
way.
hydrogen sulfide, but the crew noticed something unusual. The whale was a species they couldn't identify. The skeleton was too large for any known whale species. The proportions were wrong. Certain
What?
bones were entirely unfamiliar. They took samples and photographs. The samples were lost in a lab incident before full analysis. The photographs showed a skeleton that no marine biologist
There's the
they
government,
consulted
bro.
could classify. A return expedition was scheduled. By the time a team returned, the current had shifted the sediment. The skeleton was buried, gone. Brine pools.
That sucks,
Brine
bro.
pools
What does
sit
this
on the
mean?
ocean floor. Pockets of water so salty they don't mix with the ocean above them. They have a
Whoa.
surface, a shoreline,
Where does
waves,
salt
a
in the
lake
ocean
inside the
come
ocean.
from?
The water is
Wait,
3 to 8
what?
times saltier than the surrounding sea. So dense it behaves like liquid ground. Animals that swim into it die instantly.
Huh?
The pools form over salt deposits buried under the seafloor. Water seeps through and dissolves the salt. Rises back up supersaturated, heavy enough to pool and stay. Some of these pools have been sitting undisturbed for thousands of years. The largest known one in the Gulf of Mexico is over a mile wide. It's called the Jacuzzi of Despair. The name is
Jacuzzi
accurate. The
of
edges are
Despair.
ringed with dead things. Fish, crabs, eels, anything that drifted too close. The
Whoa.
brine suffocates by replacing oxygen with salt. Death is immediate. The bodies don't decay normally in that concentration. They mummify. Some pools have rings of preserved carcasses going back decades. A perfect record of everything that made the wrong turn. But life clusters at the edges. Tube worms and mussels thrive right where the brine meets normal water, feeding on
being crazy,
methane and
bro.
hydrogen sulfide, seeping up through the pool. The chemistry there is toxic to everything else. These organisms built an entire food chain on it. Shrimp graze on the bacterial mats. Crabs pick through the mummified dead. A functioning ecosystem built around a lake that kills
Dude,
everything
that's
that enters
crazy.
it. The
So when
deepest
stuff dies in the ocean, everything just eats it, and that's like a cycle. It just keeps going, bro. There's so much stuff in the ocean we don't know. It's crazy.
ship graveyards. The ocean floor is covered
Yo.
in wrecks. 3 million of them by current estimates.
3 million ships that are in the ocean that are just sitting there, bro. Yeah, they're not gonna like go away because it's like made out of like metal and stuff. That's crazy, bro.
Cargo ships, warships, submarines, tankers, sitting in darkness across every ocean.
Wow.
Most of them still loaded. Weapons, fuel, cargo that was never meant to stay in the water indefinitely. The wrecks are deteriorating. The SS Richard Montgomery sank off the English coast in 1944. It still carries 1,400 tons of unexploded munitions. The masts are visible above the water at low tide. The hull is actively degrading. When it finally collapses, the explosion would blow out windows in London and generate a wave that floods coastal towns. There's no plan to defuse it. The risk of triggering it during any attempt is considered too high. It's been sitting there for
my
80
God,
years.
we're all gonna die.
It will keep sitting there. Hundreds of warships sunk during World War II are now
Look at this picture, bro. These are all the ships that were sunk in World War II.
leaking. Fuel oil preserved in cold, deep
Oil
water
leaking.
is seeping
Ooh.
through corroding tanks. The USS Mississiniua, dozens of Japanese warships in Chuuk Lagoon, slowly killing ecosystems that took
Ugh.
thousands of years to build. Marine archaeologists call it the next environmental crisis, happening invisibly
Wow.
under the surface with no funding to stop it. But the wrecks also
need
became
to do
something
something about
else.
it.
Artificial reefs.
I'ma
In
figure
the
something
decades
out.
since sinking, they've been colonized completely. Coral covering every surface. Fish moving through corridors that used to be hallways. Sharks resting in cargo holds. The USS
Dude,
Orange
that's terrifying. Imagine you're going and exploring a ship and you're like, oh, what's in this one? A freaking shark just jumps out and eats you and kills you, bro. Oh my god.
Scanny was deliberately sunk off Florida in 2006. Within months, it was transformed. Inside the deepest compartments, species have been found that don't exist on natural reefs nearby. Organisms that moved in and evolved slightly in the specific conditions of the wreck, adapted to metal instead of rock. The ships that
Yo.
were lost became something their builders never designed them to be. Methane zones. The ocean floor is
Methane
saturated
zones.
with methane, frozen into ice-like crystals called methane hydrates, stored in sediment across every continental shelf on Earth. more carbon than in all known coal, oil, and gas reserves combined, sitting
What?
frozen just below the seafloor. Stable as long as the water stays cold enough.
Dude,
the
we need to
water is
get that
warming.
stuff.
When methane hydrates destabilize, they release gas, huge columns of bubbles rising from the seafloor. This happens
Oh.
constantly in the Arctic.
Dude, it's
So
like in Minecraft when you got the bubbles that push you up.
thousands of active seep sites, plumes rising hundreds of feet off the bottom. Methane traps heat 80 times more effectively than carbon dioxide. The warmer the water gets, the more hydrates destabilize.
Okay.
The more gas releases, the warmer the water gets. Scientists call it a feedback loop. There's no known way to stop one once it starts, but around the seeps, the seafloor is alive.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell that
Methane-eating
means.
bacteria. The snake wall. The
The
snake
snake
wall is a
wall?
mass of venomous sea snakes 3 miles long and 100 feet wide, moving through the open Pacific as a single organism. The yellow-bellied sea snake has been doing the same thing for 15 million years. It drifts motionless
How'd
at
they
the
live
surface,
that long?
fish shelter beneath it, and then it strikes straight down. Venom potent enough to kill a human in hours, never touches land, born at sea, dies at sea, off the coast of Costa Rica.
What?
These snakes aggregate in numbers that make the word
Oh,
aggregate
no.
useless. Hundreds of thousands of animals, 3 miles long, 100 feet wide. Vessels that approached reported the same thing every time.
Dude.
No fleeing, no threat display. The column simply continued moving
just
as
keep
if the
going.
boat was not there. You cannot pass through without making contact.
Dude, imagine you're on a boat and you look out and there's just a million freaking snakes just going by, dude. Oh my god, that's terrifying.
Every animal in that stretch carries enough venom to kill an adult human in hours.
But there's
no
a million of
antivenom
them.
at sea. No treatment on a research vessel. The snakes will not warn you. Crab swarms.
Crab
Every year off
swarm?
the coast of Christmas Island, something happens that looks like the ocean is bleeding. Red crabs migrate from the interior of the island to the coast. 40 to 50 million of them, covering every
Ew.
surface. The roads close. The beaches turn red. They enter the ocean to spawn. Each female carrying up to 100,000 eggs. The eggs
Oh
hatch in
my
the surf
God.
instantly. Then the larvae drift. The larvae spend weeks in open water, eaten in billions. By
I don't
fish,
like that.
by whale sharks,
I don't like it.
by manta rays that circle the island during the migration specifically to feed. The few
Dude,
larvae
yeah, that's
that
smart. If you're a shark, just go to this place and just freaking eat like a billion crabs and you'll be straight.
survive drift back to shore and transform. Small crabs the size of thumbnails crawling back onto land by the millions. Starting the cycle again. The whole event is driven by the lunar cycle. The crabs time their release to the last quarter moon. They've
How
been
do they
doing
know?
this since before humans arrived on the island. In colder water, different swarms form. Tanner crabs in the
Dude.
Bering Sea aggregate in masses that cover acres of seafloor. Towers of
I don't
crabs,
like crabs,
stacked on
bro.
top of each other.
They look
Thousands of
creepy.
individuals forming structures 10 feet tall. Research in
Ugh.
2012 showed the towers are almost entirely male crabs moving in spirals. The motion generates heat in the freezing water. The warmth attracts females from across the surrounding seafloor. The males figured out how to centrally heat themselves in one of the coldest
Dude,
environments on
what?
Earth. In 2017,
They make their own
a deep
heat?
sea survey off the coast of Panama found something no
They did
one
a
was
survey?
prepared.
What they do? Freaking hand out pieces of paper to the crabs? Say, here, dude, check this box.
A monoculture, a field of a single species of squat lobster covering 150 square miles of seafloor.
Look at those
An
things.
estimate
Yeah, I'm never stepping foot in the ocean again.